Husband discovers wife's cheating, takes ultimate revenge, and disappears without a trace. Flo, or Florence, was my spouse. I'm Jim. We met in college and tied the knot shortly after graduating. Our life together followed the usual path of husband and wife, with kids, a home, and a mortgage. Flo stayed home to care for our children until they grew up. Then she went back to her career in real estate. Flo's an attractive woman, and I reckon she faced some teasing at work from time to time, but, as far as I know, she stayed loyal to me in our marriage. She has a bit of a naughty sense of humor sometimes, which I reckon might have caused some trouble in our marriage. We had 2 kids, a boy named Eric and a girl named Patty. When this all went down, Eric was 21 and had finished vocational school. He had his own place nearby and worked as an electrician. Patty was 19 and studying at a state university about 150 miles away. With the kids out of the picture, we looked ahead to a happy retirement, hoping for some travel and, hopefully, grandchildren to spoil. Our bed life was what I'd consider normal. We had a loving relationship that grew over our years together. Initially, we were physically engaged almost every night and on weekends, but over time, it tapered to a couple of times a week, which was fine by me but seemed to diminish Flo's interest too. Over time, I mastered pushing all the right buttons to bring Flo to her peak, yet nearly every scenario comes with a snag. Ours arrived in the form of a new neighbor, about 5 years back. Roger and his wife Alice moved in next door, and we struck up a friendship. The issue with Roger was his love for pranks. He'd pull them on anyone he could, much to my dismay. I often found myself on the receiving end. What bothered me even more was Flo's enjoyment of his antics, especially when they targeted me. I tried explaining my discomfort to her, even joining in at times, but she didn't listen or back down. With time, I noticed Roger's interest in Flo, suspecting he harbored desires beyond mere friendship. Whenever we were together, he and Flo shared laughs over his sometimes crude jokes, leaving Alice and me to politely smile at their antics. In public, I could tell Alice felt as disheartened as I did about their behavior. I vividly recall one day at the beach when Roger mocked some boors passing by, and to my dismay, Flo joined in. Alice and I were stunned by their recklessness, but our reprimands fell on deaf ears as they laughed uproariously together. Right before the conclusion, I started sensing things spiraling out of hand. We were over at Roger and Alice's place, with Alice and I chilling in the backyard while Flo went inside with Roger to help grab drinks. We chatted for a bit until we realized they'd been gone for a while. Concerned, we headed indoors to find them in the kitchen. We found no one, but as we began searching, they strolled out of the living room, arms wrapped around each other, giggling away. Roger sported lipstick smudges on his collar and around his mouth, while Flo's lipstick was askew and her hair tousled. Alice and I stood there, mouths agape, utterly taken aback. "Hey guys, sorry for the delay on drinks. Got caught up showing Flo my artwork," Roger said, seemingly oblivious to their appearance. Alice and I remained rooted in shock, stunned by their brazen display. "Roger's got some amazing prints. You know what I mean, right, Alice?" Flo chimed in with a smirk. At that point, I gathered my thoughts and finally spoke up. "What's happening here?" I directed at Flo. "Why does Roger have lipstick all over him and you look like you've been kissed?" "Oh, that's because I got really into admiring Roger's engravings. I guess I got carried away." "You're not mad, are you?" she asked, trying to maintain a composed demeanor. As I studied their expressions, it dawned on me. Roger had that smirk he gets when he's about to pull one of his jokes, and Flo was avoiding my gaze, struggling not to burst into laughter. My irritation flared. Alice, still unaware, chimed in at last. "What's happening, Roger? If you think you can carry on with another woman in our home, you better think again." As Roger and Flo erupted into laughter. I think Alice caught on and smiled sheepishly, but I couldn't contain my anger. "One of these days, you two will push it too far, and it won't end well." "Oh, lighten up, darling. It's just a prank. If you could see how you both looked, you'd find it funny too," Flo said between laughs. "Come on, guys, let me fix you a drink and we can all laugh this off," Roger chimed in, strolling into the kitchen with Flo trailing behind, still giggling. Alice and I simply shrugged and trailed after them, shaking our heads in disgust. "One day, Alice, they're going to push it too far," I reiterated. "One of these days, their pranks will backfire and someone will get hurt." Alice nodded in agreement. That night, when we returned home, I could tell Flo sensed my lingering anger, especially regarding her role in the prank. "I'm really sorry, honey," she said. "I just got carried away. Nothing serious happened. I just smeared some lipstick on him and messed up his hair. We never expected you guys to be upset. We were about to call it off when you and Alice showed up. Are you still mad?" "It was just a joke." "I'm trying not to be, Flo, but you have to stop getting involved in Roger's pranks. I nearly had a heart attack seeing you look like you were kissing him. You know how important loyalty is to me. I understand, honey. I value loyalty just as much and would never do anything to hurt you. Just please remember that, okay? Give me a passionate kiss and forgive me, she pleaded. A couple of weeks later, we were back at Roger and Alice's for dinner on a Saturday night. Just as we finished eating, a call came in that Roger mistakenly thought was for Alice. Alice worked as an ER nurse at a local hospital. After he hung up, he turned to Alice. It's the ER. There's been a bad car wreck, and they need you there as soon as possible. Ah, damn, let me change and head out. 10 minutes later, Alice was on her way to the hospital. Once she'd left, Roger turned to me and asked if I could lend a hand with a project in his basement. While I helped, Flo remained silent, avoiding eye contact. At the time, I didn't think much of it, but later it struck me. What do you need? I asked, getting up to join him downstairs. I need you to hold something for me while I fix it to the ceiling. It's not too heavy, but I can't hold it up and attach it at the same time, and Alice is too short for this. Sure, sounds straightforward. Trust me, it is. It'll only take a minute. As we descended the stairs, he directed me to a metal support post near the stove on the floor above. He took a small metal box with a power cord hanging from it off his workbench and hoisted it up to the ceiling between the support post and the furnace. I noticed Flo had followed us down and was watching with a smile. Again, I didn't think much of her presence or her odd grin. Now, I need you to hold this while I attach it, Roger instructed. What's this for? I questioned, lifting my hands to grasp the box. With Roger between the pipe and the furnace, I had to wrap my hands around the pipe to press the box against the basement ceiling. I'll explain in a sec, but let me grab my tools first. He vanished behind his desk, leaving me holding the box. He returned moments later, and I didn't see what he had until I felt 2 quick clicks as something hard and metallic closed around my wrists. Suddenly, I realized I'd been tricked. I was handcuffed to the pipe. Shocked, I turned to see Roger putting his arm around Flo's waist as they looked at me. My mind raced, but I managed to demand, "What's going on, Roger? Get these damn cuffs off." "Sorry, buddy, can't do that. Flo's so fond of my prince she wants another look. But this time, we don't need you or Alice around," he explained, as he and Flo ascended the basement steps. Flo exaggeratedly swayed her hips as they left. "Let me loose. This is going too far, Roger. You'll regret it if you don't release me right now." "Relax, dear. I just want to admire some engravings," Flo chuckled as they disappeared, leaving me struggling with the handcuffs. As I tried to free myself, I realized the hopelessness of my situation. The pipe was anchored in the concrete floor below and secured to a steel I-beam overhead. As I strained to hear, I sensed their movement into the master bedroom directly above me, accompanied by Flo's excited giggles. Shoes thudded onto the carpet above, and I heard hurried whispers urging the removal of garments. "Brian, I desire you greatly," Flo whispered urgently. My fury mounted as I continued to frantically struggle with the handcuffs. Above, the bed began to creak, and I imagined them engaging in intimacy. I cursed the restraints and my disloyal wife overhead. My wrists grew raw and bloody from my relentless efforts. Emotions churned within me as Roger grunted and Flo moaned in unison. Then, silence blanketed the upstairs for a brief moment. Ceasing my struggles, I lay on the unforgiving cement floor, hands clasped around the pipe. A profound sadness settled in my heart as Flo exclaimed, "That was amazing, Roger. I'll have to admire your work again someday." "Let's dress and check on Jim downstairs," Roger replied. "Sure, Flo, I need a breather, but Alice might return soon from that phony call I made, and I'd rather she not find us in bed together." Minutes later, footsteps echoed on the basement stairs, but I didn't lift my gaze as they neared my prone form. Oh, damn, look at his wrists all bloody," Flo gasped. "Honey, it was just a prank. Nothing happened." "Oh God, I'm so sorry. Roger, hurry and unlock the cuffs so we can tend to his wrists. Oh God, I never thought he'd take it this hard." Tears streamed down my face as Roger fumbled with the handcuff key. "Roger, hand Flo the key before you unlock me and run. Once I'm free, you'll regret ever being born," I warned, glaring at him. He met my gaze wordlessly, passing the key to Flo as he edged toward the stairs. Fear flickered in his eyes while Flo began unlocking the handcuffs. Once the cuffs were off, I heard Roger's truck revving up, tires screeching as he peeled away. Rising to my feet, I peered down at Flo, still crouched on the floor, fear etched across her face. "You better find somewhere else to stay tonight, or I could seriously hurt you. Call before you attempt to come home." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she grasped the magnitude of the pain she'd caused. "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. It was just a prank. We didn't do anything." "Flo, I don't want to hear excuses about it being a joke ever again. To me, it's as if you cheated, and that's all that matters now. From here on out, I'll treat it as infidelity and betrayal. Expect a call from my lawyer soon. We're finished, I declared, turning and ascending the stairs. No, Jim, please. Nothing happened, she cried out from the basement. What do I tell the kids? I didn't respond, heading toward the front door. Just as I was getting into my car, a frantic Alice pulled into their driveway. Where the hell is my lousy husband? There was no accident, and I didn't need an ambulance, she exclaimed as she stepped out of the car. Suddenly, she noticed my wrists. What happened, Jim? Dear God, look at your wrists. Let me bandage them for you. Roger and Flo pulled another stunt, I sighed. Alice, they've crossed the line this time. I'm divorcing Flo. Oh God, what happened? She asked, her voice filled with concern. You'll hear it from Flo and Roger. I'm heading home to take care of my wounds. Once there, you can inform my cheating ex-wife that she'll find her belongings on the porch. If she wants back in, she'll need a court order. Oh God, what did they do? Alice wailed, rushing into the house in distress. I climbed into my car, my anger simmering. Arriving home, I cleansed my wrists with antibacterial soap, applied ointment, and bandaged them methodically. I packed Flo's belongings into plastic bags, placing them outside. Ignoring the ringing phone, I focused on the task. After locking up, I undressed and lay on the bed, unable to sleep despite my exhaustion. In the morning, the phone rang again, but I declined to answer. After showering and eating breakfast, I changed my bandages. Around 10, the doorbell chimed, and I peered out to find Alice on the doorstep. Inviting her in, I gestured for her to enter. They really went too far this time, didn't they? She remarked as she stepped inside. Unfortunately, yes, I replied. What's your plan? She inquired as I told her. I'm filing for divorce, but they claim nothing happened. Just another one of their jokes. Flo really wants to talk to you, Alice mentioned. My perception is that they did it, and as far as I'm concerned, that's reality. I'll schedule a meeting with a divorce attorney first thing Monday, I responded calmly. You're incredibly upset, aren't you? Can't you wait until you've cooled off before making such a drastic decision? You've invested nearly 24 years in each other. Don't you want to salvage anything? She reasoned. I won't tolerate being betrayed. I've warned Flo numerous times, and in my eyes, she betrayed me. It's over, I declared. But they insist nothing actually happened. They just made it seem that way, Alice argued. Their words are not proof. It felt as though it could have happened, I explained. And they can't prove it didn't happen, so I have to trust my perception that it did. She showed no respect for me, I stated firmly. Can't you hold off and seek counseling? Flo's devastated by this, Alice pleaded. I warned her before, but she didn't listen, I retorted. I've said my piece. Let the lawyer handle it. If you're content with Roger's involvement, that's your choice, but he'd better steer clear of me, I concluded. I haven't decided what to do about Roger yet, but I hate to see our friendship end over this. Roger feels genuinely sorry and wants me to pass on his sincere apologies to you, Alice said. Make it clear that our friendship is over, I insisted. Although I'd like to stay friends, Alice, I think it's best if we don't see each other while you're still with him. Is there anything I can tell Flo to give her hope for your forgiveness? Alice asked. If she can prove she didn't sleep with Roger, I'll consider it. I don't trust Roger or her word that it was just a joke. I feel like it happened, and that's enough for me, I replied. Okay, Jim, I'll let her know. I'll miss you, Alice said sadly. I'll miss you too, Alice. Let me load Flo's things into your car so you can take them to her. I assume you still have it. She's moving in with her sister this afternoon. Her sister lives on the other side of town. She's a widow and lives alone, so there's space for Flo, maybe indefinitely. After loading Flo's belongings into Alice's car, I waved her off, then returned to the house. First, I looked up a locksmith to change the locks. It occurred to me that if I went to work on Monday and Flo changed the locks, I'd end up locked out. I arranged for the locksmith to come the same day. Then I unplugged my phone and switched off my cell. I dedicated the entire day to household chores until the locksmith's arrival. Once he departed, I hopped into my car and made a trip to the local supermarket, stocking up on a few frozen dinners to sustain me for about a week. Upon returning to my now solitary home, I couldn't shake the absence of Flo after nearly 24 years together. However, my anger toward her and what she, along with Roger, had done lingered. Around 7:30 that evening, while watching TV, the doorbell chimed. Peering out the window, I spotted Flo's sister, Mary, at the doorstep. Hello, Mary, I greeted as I opened the door for her. Hi, Jim. Can I have a moment of your time? Of course, Mary. Come on in, I welcomed. We proceeded to the living room where she settled into a seat while I asked if she wanted a drink. A Coca-Cola would be fine, she requested. After fetching the drinks, I returned to the living room. "I suppose you know why I'm here," she began after taking a sip. "Yes. Are you here to plead for her return?" "If so, you've come in vain," I responded bluntly. "No, she confided in me about everything." "How are your wrists?" she inquired. "They're healing, scabbing over, no signs of infection," I informed her. "Flo will be relieved to hear that," Mary remarked. "She's on the brink of a breakdown, particularly because you refuse to speak with her. That's why I'm here, to deliver a message, or rather a few messages," she continued. "Very well. I'll hear your messages, but I can't promise anything in return," I stated. "Firstly, she loves you deeply and regrets her actions," Mary conveyed. "All right. Anything else?" I prompted. "She wants you to know she's willing to undergo a lie detector test to prove she's telling the truth. It's the only proof she can offer that nothing happened with Roger or anyone else," Mary disclosed. This proposition was a novel idea I hadn't considered. I pondered it for a moment while Mary observed me, sipping her cola. "It sounds typical, but I have conditions. Firstly, proof that she didn't sleep with Roger doesn't guarantee reconciliation. Secondly, Roger must also undergo the same test with matching results. Thirdly, I require approval from the test administrator for questions. Lastly, I won't cover the test expenses." "That seems fair, Jim, but wouldn't you consider reconciliation more if the tests prove their honesty?" "No. She deeply wounded me. Even if I decide to take her back, it will take a long time to forgive her," I asserted. "Understood, Jim. I'll convey your terms to her. I'm truly sorry. I intended to be furious with her for her foolishness when she came by this afternoon. However, she looked so distressed that I doubt anything I could say would worsen her state. She's aware of her grave mistake and the pain she's caused you. I'll give her some sleeping pills to help her rest tonight. Also, she contacted your children and confessed her actions. They seemed upset with her, as she hasn't stopped crying since speaking with them. I should return to deliver your message. Thanks for the cola." "No problem, Mary. I appreciate your concern." After her departure, I reflected on the situation. Some of my initial rage had subsided, allowing me to think more clearly about my desires. I decided to have a drink first, heading to my office where the drinks cabinet stood. Pouring myself half a glass of scotch, I added an ice cube in the kitchen. Without returning to my seat, I wandered the house, reminiscing about our shared married life. Did I truly want to end it all? My contemplation was interrupted by the doorbell ringing. Peering out the window, I spotted our daughter Patty standing at the front door, visibly discontent. Oh, I thought. She might have realized the locks were changed and her key didn't work. Upon opening the door, Patty strode inside, casting me a hostile glance. "What's up with the locks, Dad? And why are you ignoring calls? I had to drive 150 miles to get some answers." "Sorry, Patty. I didn't mean to avoid talking to your mother. I heard from Aunt Mary that she briefed you on what happened." "Yeah, and I'm really upset with you for kicking her out just because of a joke. Can't you forgive her and let her come home?" When she phoned me to disclose her actions, I realized she acted foolishly. Patty, it transcended mere humor. I had previously cautioned her about the pranks she and Roger engaged in, but she disregarded my warnings. I couldn't glean much from Mom during our phone conversation, but I gathered it was intended as a jest. What could be so objectionable about that? I elaborated on the events, starting with the earlier lipstick smudge prank and our ensuing conversations. Then I recounted the more serious joke, revealing the scars on my wrists by rolling up my sleeves. "Daddy, this is awful." "Is that when you asked her to leave?" "Yes, it seemed like they might have had lovemaking. It sounded just like they described, and I know your mom's bedroom noises. Either that, or they're exceptional actors. I believe they did it. That's my reality. Unless she proves otherwise, I suggested your mom take a lie detector test, and Roger too. If the results prove true, I'll have to trust her, but it hurt deeply that she thought I'd find being betrayed a joke. I might not be able to reconcile with her. I'm really sorry about all this, Dad. I hope you and Mom can work through it because I love you both despite what she did. I'm trying to make it work, baby, because I miss your mom dearly, but I'm still struggling with her lack of respect for me." "Okay, Daddy, I understand. Now that I know what happened, I'm going to visit Mom and try to calm her down. I'll probably stay at Aunt Mary's tonight, and I have to return to school tomorrow. Please turn on your phone so I can reach you. Eric also wants to talk to you. He's working upstate and tried to call you after Mom contacted him." "Sure, baby. I'll switch the phones back on once you're gone. Come here for a hug." I embraced her tightly, feeling how much she resembled her mother, which was both comforting and unsettling. I cherished her deeply. She'd always been my little girl. "Goodbye, Daddy," she said, opening her car door. I waved as she drove off, then returned inside, resuming my solitary drink and turning my phones back on. A couple of days after Flo's sister Mary visited, she called to inform me that Flo had agreed to my terms for the lie detector test, and Roger had also consented. Roger offered to cover the cost of his test as a sign of remorse for his involvement in the prank. Mary also provided me with the contact information for the testing administrator. My anger toward Flo for her involvement in the prank had somewhat subsided, but I felt deeply despondent. If she truly loved me and hadn't been physically engaged with Roger, how could she participate in such a humiliating joke? I began to entertain the possibility that her love for me had waned, despite her claims of wanting reconciliation. It boiled down to whether I was willing to endure a loveless marriage if tests confirmed no carnal involvement. Flo attempted to reach out to me multiple times, but I promptly ended the calls upon hearing her voice. Subsequently, her sister acted as an intermediary, relaying Flo's apologies and desires to reconcile. However, I maintained my stance, insisting on awaiting the results of the lie detector tests before making any decisions. During this period, our son Eric fervently urged me to forgive his mother and allow her to return home. Despite my efforts to explain the situation and the hurt her actions caused, he struggled to comprehend my pain and persisted in his plea for her return. I realized that our relationship could become strained if we ended up divorcing. Thankfully, our daughter Patty showed more empathy and support for my situation. After Mary provided me with the test administrator's contact details, I reached out to legal and law enforcement acquaintances for insights. Reassured by their recommendations, I scheduled an appointment with the administrator, confident in his ability to conduct an impartial test. The following day, I discovered that Flo and Roger had already contacted the test administrator, Jack Heron, and scheduled tests for both of them in 2 days. They designated me as an interested party authorized to control the questions asked. I informed my boss the next day about needing personal time and visited Jack Heron's office. After explaining the situation to him, we discussed the questions he would pose to determine whether Flo and Roger had engaged in carnal activity. Jack assured me that he would ask the same questions to both parties, compile their responses, and provide a final written report. He agreed that matching test results from both would confirm no carnal activity. Had this not been the outcome, trust in Flo might have been irreparable, leading to inevitable divorce if the tests indicated lying. Returning to work, I felt more assured that clarity regarding any carnal involvement would soon emerge, yet I acknowledged that challenging decisions lay ahead. Over the next 3 days, I adhered to my usual work routine, staying late to avoid returning to an empty home. Evening meals were taken at a nearby diner, followed by whiskey at home, where sleep was elusive. The absence of Flo's warmth and love weighed heavily on me. Before the morning of the test, uncertainty lingered. However, a clear lie detector report would pave the way for Flo's return, with the assurance that she'd refrain from any more insensitive pranks, especially after seeing how deeply the last one affected me. The tranquility lasted until the phone rang just after 11. It was Alice. "Jim, it's Alice. I found something important. Roger's at the testing center. Can you come now?" Her tone sounded ominous, prompting me to rush next door. Following our usual routine, I entered through the front door and heard Alice's voice from the office. Inside, I found her at her desktop computer, wearing a concerned expression. "Jim, I need you to see this." I pulled up a chair beside her. "Jim, Roger's been acting secretive since Tuesday. A couple of times I caught him quickly minimizing something on the monitor when I passed by this door. Also, he tends to leave the room when he's on the phone. I'm pretty sure he spoke to Flo yesterday. This is my first chance to check our computer without him around." With that, Alice clicked on the Google icon, revealing his search history since Tuesday. My blood ran cold as I scanned through some of the research. There were 4 different searches on how to beat a lie detector test. Alice and I sat side by side, reading through many of the pages her husband had browsed. After digesting enough, we retreated to her living room to discuss our findings. Our conversation continued until we heard Roger's car pull up outside. As he entered and greeted us with a wary look, he took a seat on the couch opposite Alice and me. If I hadn't been observant, I might have missed the slight limp as he favored his left leg. This was all the reassurance I needed. "Roger, I believe you passed the test with flying colors." "Honestly, I had a hunch nothing untoward happened that day," I remarked, catching Alice's puzzled glance out of the corner of my eye. I realized I hadn't shared my plan with her yet. I spoke up. "If you promise that you and Flo will never pull another stunt like this again, I'm willing to let bygones be bygones and shake hands. Perhaps even skip reading the report altogether." Relief washed over his face as he readily gave his word. With a smile, I rose from my seat and approached him. As he extended his right hand, I took a step closer, firmly planting my foot on his right leg. The expected discomfort failed to register. Instead, his face drained of color as he let out a piercing scream, collapsing back onto the couch. Frantically, he used both hands to free his foot from under mine, eventually tearing off his shoe. Alice and I watched as the shoe came off, revealing blood-soaked socks. He continued to groan in pain. Glancing sideways at Alice, I saw her discomfort at the sight of blood. Keeping my gaze on her, I smiled as I noticed her realization, connecting our earlier reading with the wound on Roger's leg. I won't bother with the report because I know it'll be nonsense. Did you nail your shoe to press on it while answering their security questions, trying to mask your lies? It had to backfire eventually, didn't it? Trying to induce sweat and a faster heart rate with harmless questions, making the results appear truthful, I concluded. The anguish on Roger's face softened slightly, giving way to a look of despair as he glanced between me and Alice. Yeah, I did cheat. And I showed Flo how to do it, but not for the reason you're thinking. Seriously, man, he confessed. All right, Alice, brace yourself, I remarked as we both resumed our seats, and Roger gently applied pressure to his soul to staunch the bleeding. Observing Alice's disapproving expression at the mess on the floor, I briefly entertained the thought of suggesting that she make him clean the carpet with his tongue. To his credit, Roger remained silent, offering no attempt to dramatize this new revelation. We didn't know what questions you posed to the examiner. What's so complicated about asking if we had lovemaking? I interjected. Sure, we probably would have aced that one, but we were concerned you'd delve into something more subtle. Like what? I prodded further. Well, has our conduct always aligned with the standards of a marital relationship? Roger began, but before he could finish, Alice interjected angrily, indicating an obvious negative response to that query. Why else would you go to the trouble of sticking a damn nail in your shoe before the test? I pressed on. I'm guessing the fact that you arrived with the nail still lodged inside means you forgot to bring extra shoes or a pair of pliers. Planning ahead has never been your strong suit, has it? I added, addressing Alice as I spoke. Please, honey, I didn't want to lose you, and Flo certainly didn't want to lose Jim. So, dear husband, when and what did you do that wouldn't measure up to the standards of a marriage? Alice inquired, her tone stern. Roger shifted uncomfortably in his chair and responded in a subdued voice. It was that day we pretended to be fooling around upstairs. We were just jumping on the bed. As you can imagine, we were both fully clothed, he hurriedly clarified, explaining. We were bouncing on the bed, causing it to squeak. I can't even recall who initiated it, but somehow we began touching each other through our clothes. We both found it enjoyable. We were incredibly foolish. I felt a bit puzzled. I pride myself on being a good judge of character, and this rings true. If not, Roger is exceptionally skilled at conjuring excuses on the spot. I glanced at Alice. Is this satisfactory? I asked. Not even close, she retorted. This pair has demonstrated such proficiency in deception and scheming that I am far from convinced, Alice continued. Roger, tend to your leg, apply some antiseptic, bandage it, and then I suggest you leave. I need time to contemplate, plus there's the matter of cleaning up yet another one of your messes, Alice snapped, indicating a stain on the carpet near Roger's foot. Despite Roger's acting skills, the look of dread on his face betrayed his deep concern about the fate of his marriage. I have a video, Alice, he blurted out suddenly. What? I exclaimed. Simultaneously, we sounded like a twisted duet. I installed a camera in our bedroom before we handcuffed you in the basement. I captured everything, Roger confessed. Before I could react, then why the hell didn't you mention this a few days ago? I demanded. Roger didn't need to respond to that question. If the video depicted them pleasuring each other, even while fully clothed, it wouldn't be something two spouses eager to reconcile with their partners would want to share publicly. Personally, I strongly believe that the boundary of infidelity extends far beyond the actual physical act. Any form of closeness, including a simple kiss on the lips, would constitute crossing a line that should not be crossed. I had the intention to do so, but Flo feared your reaction, Roger explained. We instructed Roger to tend to his leg and then present us with the video. While Roger was out of the room, I sent Flo a message. I couldn't resist adding to her already mounting anxiety. Remove the nail from your shoe and come over to Alice's house. Roger is going to show us a video. Normally, it's just a minute's walk from Mary's house to ours, but it took a good 35 minutes before there was a knock on the door. Alice opened it and welcomed Flo and her sister Mary. Flo's makeup was smudged and her eyes were teary. Mary explained that my wife panicked as soon as she read my message, realizing that I had caught on to her little scheme. Flo appeared far less composed about the test results than Roger did upon his return home. Mary simply glanced at me and raised her eyebrows at Flo's further self-destructive behavior. Flo attempted to embrace me, but I guided her to sit beside me on the couch. She kept studying my expression, seemingly trying to gauge my feelings. I wondered if Mary had any inkling about the contents of the video. Alice and I didn't waste time during those 35 minutes. Our discussion centered around what our likely course of action would be if the video indeed confirmed Roger's claims. Alice had already made up her mind that she would likely forgive Roger for the bedroom incident, albeit after letting him stew for a bit. As for me, I was more conflicted. My initial emotional reaction was that my wife had betrayed me, something I had always deemed unforgivable. However, my logical reasoning was more composed. Flo had been an exemplary wife for 24 years, and our children had made it abundantly clear that they would be devastated if I didn't forgive her. A minute after everyone settled in, Roger arrived with his laptop, a USB flash drive protruding from one port while a cable emerged from the other. He positioned the computer next to the TV and powered it up. I found it odd that he didn't simply insert the flash drive directly into the TV. Then I recalled Alice's remark about his lack of tech savviness. Once the image on the computer screen synchronized with that on the TV, Roger muttered another apology and hit play. Flo kept her gaze averted from everyone in the room, including the TV. She was undoubtedly aware of my uncompromising stance on fidelity, making this an incredibly uncomfortable situation for her. Mary observed the screen intently, seemingly unaware of what was about to unfold. Roger appeared more at ease once again. He settled beside Alice and attempted to hold her hand, but she withdrew it. The clip, lasting about 10 minutes, essentially depicted what Roger had previously described. It was largely devoid of any eroticism. Within moments of its commencement, both protagonists appeared fully clothed, just as Roger had stated. Flo turned him onto his back, then positioned herself on top of him, echoing verbatim what I had heard while handcuffed in the basement. We observed that it was Roger who initiated the hand game, though Flo followed closely behind. This was incredibly difficult for me to witness for several reasons. Firstly, no man with any self-respect, apart from a few outliers, desires to witness his wife in such a scenario with another man. Secondly, it triggered painful PTSD as I relived the words that had devastated me less than a week ago. It reignited the burning and throbbing sensation in my wrists, a painful reminder of my inability to prevent what was unfolding in the room above me. Midway through, I shut my eyes tightly, attempting to block out the sounds. I didn't open them again until the room was filled with the silence that followed their shared climaxes. The silence felt deafening and all-encompassing. Even the normal sounds of breathing seemed absent within the room. I wasn't alone in my turmoil. Glancing at the screen, I saw Flo and Roger quickly separate. The video paused, revealing an empty bed before fading to black. The uncomfortable silence lingered in the room for several tense moments. Once the clip concluded, Mary cast a disgusted look at Flo, while Roger looked hopefully at Alice. Flo stared at a spot on the floor, her focus unwavering. The silence shattered when Alice abruptly rose to her feet, with Roger following suit. "You deceitful traitor!" Alice's words cut through the air, shocking us all. It was the most severe thing I had ever heard her say, surpassing any prior expletives. Roger's expression betrayed his shock at her outburst. The sound of her open palm striking his cheek echoed like a fire shot. She was seething with anger. I've never seen someone so enraged, I thought to myself, watching the scene unfold. But Alice wasn't finished. "Don't you dare touch me, you treacherous little scoundrel," she seethed, her fury palpable. Roger dodged, narrowly avoiding a second slap. He winced, shifting his weight to his right leg, appearing bewildered. "This entire video is fabricated," he insisted. "But why? We had invited Jim and Flo over later that evening, hadn't we? We were planning to relax on the patio, right?" Alice's question came out more like a growl, but due to the rain we opted to stay indoors. "Do you recall now?" Roger still seemed puzzled, but nodded along with Alice's explanation. Alice pointed angrily at the TV screen. "Look at this, fool. The sunlight streaming through the window indicates it's not only a sunny day but also morning. This window doesn't receive direct sunlight until noon. You concocted the entire story, didn't you?" Roger's expression shifted from confusion to horror. That was all the confirmation I needed of their deceit. The abrupt transition from contemplating forgiveness to a resolute decision was disorienting, and I detest feeling humiliated. I could indeed concur that there might be a valid reason for attempting to deceive a lie detector test. There was only one explanation: they tampered with the video. The following moments were tense. Flo let out a loud groan and fled out the door, while Mary sat there, stunned. Alice advanced towards Roger, who attempted to maneuver past me, using me as a shield. I took a single stride and exerted all my force as I brought my foot down on his injured leg. Instinctively, he doubled over, and as his head reached a near-horizontal position, it met my knee coming from the opposite direction, causing his head to snap back, blood spraying from his flattened nose. He joined Flo in a hurried flight away from the house, leaving the three of us locked in a grim tableau. Alice stood trembling, tears streaming down her face, a sentiment I could deeply relate to. For the second time in a week, the man I had loved unconditionally for nearly 25 years shattered my heart. The realization that this was the same person who had kept me hopeful between crises was doubly shocking. Mary remained seated, seemingly stunned by her sister's foolishness and likely horrified by the lies Flo undoubtedly fed her over the past week. I approached Alice and enveloped her in a hug. I held her as she trembled uncontrollably, mourning the demise of her marriage. I've always preferred to grieve in solitude, reserving it for later, but in this moment, I remained composed, as clinically calm as one can be amidst chaos, already formulating a list of inquiries. I was already regretting letting Roger depart with only a broken nose. I glanced at Mary, pondering her reasons for staying. Was it to offer apologies for her role in this debacle, or was it due to her inability to tear her gaze away from the catastrophe unfolding before her? Unable to answer this without breaking my connection with Alice, which I had no intention of doing, I allowed my thoughts to race. It became apparent that Roger, while intelligent and adept at manipulation, was not as cunning as Alice. If she hadn't picked up on the sunlight clue at that moment, we might still be part of two successful couples. In hindsight, the doctored video was quite clever, yet I struggled to reconcile this with the fact that I was being deceived. I was certain that the soundtrack aligned perfectly with the words I had heard during that weekend, leading to an inevitable logical conclusion. That certainty neatly fit into a slot in my mind like the penultimate piece of a puzzle. They must have either overlaid the old soundtrack onto new visual footage or replicated the words and sounds in real time. Both scenarios based on recordings made during the original incident. Suddenly, Roger's actions of playing the file through his laptop made sense. After giving Alice one final hug, I gently lowered her onto the couch and made my way to my laptop. I breathed a sigh of relief when I found it hadn't gone into sleep mode yet, which would have required a password to regain access. How silly, I chastised myself inwardly, realizing that if it had, I could have simply viewed the flash drive on another device. My mind was clearly foggy from everything that had transpired. With my fingers deftly navigating the keys and mouse, I closed the software and opened the video file displayed on the Explorer screen, revealing that we had just witnessed myself and Flo making take 8. There were also files labeled 2 through 7. Two more files caught my attention. One was titled Me and Flo Original, while the other was labeled AED Basement. I clicked on the latter, then scrolled along the progress bar. About 3/4 of the way through, I found myself suspended from that cursed bar in the basement, captured by an obviously hidden camera. I closed the clip, overwhelmed by the flood of unpleasant memories. The file labeled Original was significantly larger than the others. Seeing Alice's approving nod, I pressed play. It revealed a view overlooking Roger and Alice's bedroom. The perspective differed from video 8, prompting me to dash down the hallway to compare the two views. After about half a minute of detective work, I deduced that the original camera was likely concealed on a bookshelf, while subsequent versions were probably captured by a tripod-mounted camera at the foot of the bed. Upon returning to the living room, I noted that the timer at the bottom of the screen displayed 1 minute and 5 seconds, with over an hour remaining. It was evident that Roger lacked editing skills. I fast-forwarded to 20 minutes before the end, then progressed in 30-second intervals until the action began. I backtracked 30 seconds and settled onto the sofa beside Alice, clutching her hand for mutual support. Let's just say the original version differed significantly from the subsequent ones. The only commonality was that it all commenced with Flo pushing Roger onto his back. About 25 seconds later, I heard both Alice and Mary gasp simultaneously. Due to the camera angle, Flo's face came into view as she turned her head to the side, glancing down and to the left of the camera. In simpler terms, there was a grate at floor level that opened into a channel carrying the crucial sounds of their prank to the basement below, where I was held captive. The expression on Flo's face, the one that caused the gasps, was repulsive. My wife knew precisely what I endured in the basement that night, and she relished it. My supposedly loving wife took pleasure in mentally tormenting me. I battled a strong urge to vomit. When Roger noticed where Flo's gaze was fixed on the screen, he smirked maliciously. He seemed too stunned to check the time, but a few seconds must have passed. We all observed as Roger turned Flo onto her back, kneeling beside her and fiddling with his belt and trousers. On the screen, Flo lifted her skirt and ripped off her underwear, tossing them aside. The remainder of the video unfolded pretty much as I had imagined it would during my time in the basement. With the benefit of hindsight, Flo's callous enjoyment of the situation likely emboldened Roger and triggered the subsequent chain of events. That being said, if I were a betting man, I'd wager that this was Roger and Flo's first encounter. The video certainly depicted how what began as a relatively innocent situation swiftly spiraled out of control. I was fairly certain that Roger realized he derived pleasure from witnessing someone else humiliated, but it was probable that Flo stumbled upon her kink that day. After the spectacle concluded, Mary inquired about the prospect of a future between Flo and me. Her demeanor suggested she wasn't hopeful. I paused for at least a minute to sort through my emotions. No, not in this lifetime, Mary. Ironically, if Flo had approached me later and explained that it started as a joke but escalated out of control as it appeared in the original video, then perhaps I would have contemplated forgiveness. However, they colluded to rewrite history and outsmart the lie detector test. This level of deceit is beyond what I ever believed she was capable of. It makes me question how well I truly know her. What else has she lied to me about? Moreover, we haven't yet viewed all the workout videos. After her initial slip-up, she returned and engaged in at least one more physical interaction with Roger. How many times did they engage in such activities during these workout sessions? Then there was the expression on her face. I'm sure you noticed it too, Mary. I'm sorry, Mary, but it's over between us. Mary nodded solemnly. Please refrain from publicly shaming her, Jim. It would only embarrass your children. If you provide me with a copy of the video, I'll calmly explain the situation to Mom, Dad, Flo, and even your children if necessary. I nodded and expressed my gratitude. She departed sadly, but with determination in her expression. Alice had already opened the phone book to the legal section. Alice and I comforted each other for weeks. However, it became evident that any relationship is destined for painful memories, and we parted as friends. I was leaving her house late one night, after once again providing her with comfort, when I encountered an enraged Roger in her front yard. How could he ever hope to reconcile with Alice if I was visiting her 5 times a week? What a deluded fool. Glancing around for potential witnesses, I took great satisfaction in breaking his nose once more. I felt a sense of pride in myself. The memory of that sadistic grin on his face just before he destroyed my marriage would have been provocation enough. In the divorce proceedings, Alice practically crucified him. When he demanded his share of the assets, with my full approval, she threatened to press charges for unlawful restraint, using the basement video as evidence. He cut his losses and vanished soon after. That was for the best. I might have been bluffing. I could have likely endured the public humiliation, and I wasn't concerned about Flo's reputation. But I didn't want to embarrass my children or Flo's extended family. Shortly after I gave Roger a bloody nose, about a week after the video incident, Flo reached out, wondering if my decision not to share the video with her kids, family, and friends indicated a chance for us in the future. Her message, which only included one clip, suggested she was unaware that I had seen the original. She likely assumed Roger wouldn't be so careless as to keep all the incriminating evidence in one place. The message also reminded me that I hadn't sent the clips to Mary. I hadn't heard from my children that week, but given their self-absorption, was that really surprising? This also hinted at a lack of communication between Mary and Flo, perhaps due to Mary's anger or Flo's embarrassment. I called Mary to confirm she still wanted the video. She did. It was during that same conversation that I found out Flo had moved back in with her parents. When I burned both Take 8 and the original onto a DVD, I realized I hadn't actually watched Takes 2 through 7, so I did. In doing so, they extinguished every remaining soft or forgiving part of my heart, turning it into unyielding concrete. To say they both lost control would be an understatement. The same look of disgust appeared on their faces as Flo had in the original version. I almost reconsidered and sent the clips to everyone in Flo's address book before I calmed down and thought about how it would impact my children. I tried to find Roger, but he had already skipped town. No, Flo won't be forgiven, and unfortunately, Roger won't get a third broken nose. I sent all the clips to Mary with a warning that if I heard any complaints about how I treated Flo, I'd release the entire video. She must have done a good job because, one by one, Flo's parents, Eric and Patty, called to tell me they understood why my marriage was over. Later on, I discovered that Mary recounted the entire ordeal to them and offered to show the clips as proof. Only Flo's mother took her up on the offer. Struggling to believe the narrative, she apparently became ill halfway through watching the original clip. Following this, Flo didn't contest the divorce. Through Mary, I found out she had found refuge from the toxic environment at her parents' house by renting a small apartment, I wasn't aiming to cheat her in the divorce. 24 solid years had to count for something, and I didn't want any repercussions from my children down the line if and when they eventually forgave their mother. Flo sent me a sincere letter apologizing for her actions and attempted cover-up. The loneliness she expressed leaped off the pages. She pleaded for forgiveness, but more to reconcile with herself. Her appeals for me to forgive her for the sake of her parents, our children, and mutual friends nearly moved me to tears, nearly. I wasn't seeking a replacement yet, but there was no shortage of single women vying for my attention. Ask any middle-aged woman about the availability of suitable, decent-looking men with good morals, and she'll paint a bleak picture. I'm looking forward to meeting new ones, and since I have no intention of marrying again, I anticipate many, many such encounters.